for joining our 56 Tuesday morning Zoom webinar this morning. Please continue to drop into the chat as you log in which countries are represented. It's always nice for us to see how many countries are represented here in the morning. Good Morning BSN provides you with practical tools and insights to improve your skills in one of the 4 pillars of leadership, being responsible leadership, change leadership, decision-making leadership, and performance leadership, which we at BSN believe are crucial to making a difference, something which you will be able to apply directly in your working life after the Zoom webinar. We will end our session at 10:08 sharp this morning to allow you to have a break and then get your working day started. Today's topic, clarity and accountability, which relates to the pillar of performance leadership, has 2 ingredients a leader requires to drive performance. Good Morning BSN is organized by the BSN Impact Center for Great Leadership. The center is an initiative of BSN generously founded by the Culture Factor Group and sponsored by the new energy company Chint Global. The Impact Center for Great Leadership is a place where BSN alumni and other managers and leaders from companies and society meet each other to share insights and to create new practical knowledge. You can also contact the Center for in-company programs to further grow your talent and teams within your own organizations. I'd like to introduce and welcome our speakers for today's session. Our presenter, Ebunoluwa Opelami, is the head of the Group Performance Management, Talent and Culture at FCMB Group. She has extensive experience in driving business performance, high-performance cultures, and strategic objectives across industries. A passionate mentor and speaker, she empowers both business and individuals, particularly young women, to grow and succeed. Our reflector today is Violet Alalekan-Alabi, CEO of Dream Amber Limited and a BSN MBA graduate. With a background in industrial mathematics, she applies a highly analytical approach to business, helping organizations grow by solving complex challenges. Her blend of technical and business expertise makes her well suited to provide valuable insights on clarity and accountability. So without much of a further ado, I'd like to say, Ebunoluwa, the floor is yours. Please, can you continue with your presentation, and welcome today.
Okay, thank you very much, Janita. I'm glad to be here this morning. Thanks for having me, BSN. I'll just jump right into it because I'm time conscious. Okay, so we're talking about 2 key pillars of performance this morning, which are clarity and accountability. And I'd like to start the presentation by showing us a picture. I'm sure some of us might have seen this picture before, some may not have, but I'm sure we would all see ourselves or we can relate in one way or the other. So right on the screen right now is a picture that shows a communication drama, I'll put it that way. The very first picture you see there is, so this is about a project that the owner explained to all stakeholders who are supposed to be a part of the project. So the very first picture at the top to the left is how the owner explained what the project is supposed to be like or look like. The second picture next to it is how the project manager understood it. Next to that is how the architect designed it. And then the way the contractor bidded is the 4th picture. The 5th picture is how the marketing team described it. Marketing is supposed to create awareness about it, you know, communicate, let everybody know what the project is all about, but that's the way they understood it. And then the 6th picture is how the contractor installed it. The way the project was documented is in the 7th picture. How the project owner was billed is in the 8th picture, and I'm sure we all can relate with this. You know, sometimes we don't even know what we want to do, but the contractor already knows how to bill us. And you can see how endless the bill looks in the picture. And when the project was eventually delivered is what you see in the 9th picture. But guess what? The 10th picture is actually what the project's owner wanted all along. And if you can see, I'm not sure there is no 2 pictures that look very alike. Everybody understood it their own way. And this is what happens when there's lack of clarity. Everybody understands what is to be done in their own way. And we see why clarity is such a crucial part of driving performance. Let me quickly go to a quote by David. His name is David Velasco, and it says, "If you cannot write your idea on the back of my calling card, you don't have a clear idea. If you cannot write your idea on the back of my calling card, then you don't have a clear idea." What it's simply saying is that if we are clear as to what we want to achieve or where we are going, we should be able to summarize our idea in a nutshell. Okay, but when people have to re-explain and explain, or can't even explain at all what it is they want to achieve, then we get into the chaos, I'll say, and everybody wants to drive performance. Nobody wants to be seen as a laggard, right? But when there is no clarity, organizations run into this kind of issues. And a lot of times, and like I said earlier, I'm sure a lot of us can either see ourselves in this picture, or we've seen ourselves there before, or we can see another organization there. Whichever way, we all can relate with the lack of clarity that happens most of the time. And you find that leaders, no leader wants to be seen as ineffective. So you see leaders going after their team as if they are the problem. Oh, you haven't done this. You keep monitoring. You want to micromanage. You want to do, oh, where are you right now? You're not in the office. You're not there. You're not that. You're not this. But clarity is lacking. And the sad part is that a lot of organizations eventually do what we call pay for attendance as against paying for performance. Because when people just come to the office, they're not clear as to where the organization is going in terms of direction, in terms of their goals. Where are we going in the next 5 years? Nobody knows. People just come, and then they're hardly working, and they look like they're working hard. And at the end of the day, the organization is the one that gets the shorter side of the stick by paying for attendance rather than for performance. So I'll reemphasize the importance of providing clarity, how every leader must ensure that everybody has clarity as to what the organization wants to achieve. Another thing I've seen over time is that sometimes there's clarity at the executive management level, but by the time you get to the mid-level, they don't really know what the executive management is talking about. And you agree with me that execution actually happens more at the mid-level. So if the people who are actually carrying out the tasks don't know what they are doing, then what are they doing? This leads me to an analogy the late Stephen Covey gave at some point, where a leader had explained what needs to be done to a manager, and the manager went on to explain to the team. And at the end of the day, what the leader said was different from what the manager explained. And by the time that what the leader saw what was being done, he shouted, "Guys, hey, you are leaning against the wrong building." And they held back. "Oh, we are almost done." Almost done with what exactly? And that's what happens a lot of times. A lot of resources go down the drain. People get frustrated because, like I said earlier, no leader wants to be seen as ineffective. So when they are not seeing results, they transfer the aggression to their team members, who in turn transfer to the other team member. And there's a lot of chaos. Most of us in fact, all of us spend most of our time at work. So imagine going to somewhere that you're so frustrated. You're not even clear on what I'm doing this morning, for instance. I'm just going to work. What am I supposed to do? I don't even know. So I'm just going there to, mark attendance. So that's how important clarity is. When we are clear on where we are supposed to be or the goal we are trying to achieve, then we can begin to take other steps. And that leads me to the second pillar that we'll be talking about this morning, which is accountability. They actually work hand in hand, I would say. Every organization must have a system for driving accountability. Once you have clarity on what it is you want to achieve, the next question is who is doing what by when? Who is responsible for what and by when? What resources is required and by when? Where are we getting the resources from? All of this must also be clear. And we must create a cadence, or what I call a rhythm, a business rhythm, whether through meetings, regular meetings, or, we know what would best suit us in our organization. But we must have that system, that point in time where people come together to give updates on what it is they are responsible for, where they are at part-time. And that's why, yes, a lot of organizations also run a lot of meetings. However, those meetings must be meaningful. There must be a set agenda. Everybody must be aware of what exactly we are coming to do. It's not enough to just have meetings, right? Yes, we have clarity. We don't just then set up meetings. So take, for instance, you can have weekly meetings for the team members. That may be a smaller group so that they also can, better relate with themselves, provide clarity at that point as well. It's an avenue also to provide clarity where it is not really there, and then there must be a time also to present to the executive management so that in case the mid-management level is not getting it right, that is a time to, make necessary corrections or give the necessary feedback, both upwards and downwards, both ways, actually. So that's another pillar, which is very important. And once you have these two things right, I bet you will be on your way to driving performance. Everybody is clear as to what it is they are supposed to do. At meetings, people can see who is performing. And if somebody is also not performing, they need to sit upright. You can't be the one coming all the time to give excuses, and that way people feel motivated. When you see how what you do contributes to the organization, it makes you want to come to work every morning and add your own quota to the whole, goal of the business. So I think these two things, once they are gotten right in the organization, we are much more closer, or we get much closer to achieving our goals. And when we talk about clarity, one key thing I must mention is communication. Communication. It's always better to over-communicate than not to communicate at all or under-communicate. So you must ensure that you keep providing clarity at every, necessary or at every opportunity. Another time to provide clarity is during the accountability meetings, like I said earlier. So when we have this and we've gotten these two right, then organizations can say that, yes, we know what we are doing and we are getting there. And then you find that there is less micromanagement. I don't need to look for you. I don't need to know where you're at. Even I as a leader, I understand my role. The team members all understand what is expected of them. And that's where everybody works in a harmonious way. We can see where we are at per time too. Nobody is, even leaders, there's a point where you also give accountability of what you're doing, because when there's no clarity already, it shows that, something is missing somewhere. And every team member too knows who is doing what. And like I said, it's easier to also even identify laggards. Somebody who is not pulling their weight, you can easily tell when you have the right system in place. So I think I've done my, okay, I think I have 2 more minutes. So basically what I'm saying this morning is these 2 pillars, once they are gotten right in the organization, which one is clarity. What exactly are we trying to do? Where do we want to be in the next 5 years? What is this project about? Why are we doing it? And everybody is on the same page. It's cascaded across the various cadres in the organization. Then it's easier to manage performance. It's easier to drive performance. It's easier to identify if we are achieving our goals or not, because the goal is clear to everyone. And then when we have a cadence of accountability, everybody knows that at some point my work is going to get checked. I'm not going to want to be the one coming to give excuses every time. I will sit upright. I'll get my act right. If I need to brush my skills, I will do that, because all these things will be clear as well. Because even in providing clarity, like I mentioned earlier, is up to knowing what skills do we need, what resources do we need, by when, where are we getting those resources from as well? Because that's another thing. We have clarity as to what we want to do, but we don't even have the resources, and we don't know where we want to get the resources from. So all of this, once laid out clearly, it's easier to drive performance, and everybody, feels motivated to achieve the goal together. Thank you. I think my 10 minutes is up, so I'll yield the stage back to Juanita. Thank you, Juanita.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ebunoluwa. Very, very nice presentation. Thanks so much. Food for thought. Violet, we can hand over to you now to reflect on the presentation of Ebunoluwa.
Good morning, everyone. My name is
Morning.
Violet. I'm speaking from Abuja. Ebu, thank you so much for that very rich presentation. I have very limited time, but I'll just buttress on the points she mentioned, communication. And I think that's very important in every aspect of leadership. Open communication, we find out that a lot of leaders, they don't, you know, we have the autocratic leaders who really do not have a communication channel. So I think that that's a very vital role for every leader to imbibe towards it growing or towards impacting on their followership. Why I said that, you could have that various ways of open communications. You have the informal, you have the formal. I'll make an example with when I was in the bank. I was the head of private banking, and I had various people working with me. Some of them, they were doing very well in terms of performance, and some they were not doing well. And as a leader, I was actually drawn to the people that were giving so much on the field and on the job. But sometimes I just take them out for a social events on my own, and after eating, we'll talk, then I just throw up the questions to like, what are the challenges you're facing, and what are your wins? And then you find a lot of them opening up and telling, releasing their challenges. You know, but when you don't have that open communication channel with your teammates or other leaders, you find people are boxed up, people are not doing well with their performance, and you just keep ranting over them. So I think that open communication channel is a very key role when it comes to leadership. It's a very key role when it comes to performance. It's a very key role when it comes to clarity, because while you are having that channel, you are being clear on what you want. You are being clear with your goals. You are being clear with the objectives of the organization. You are being clear with everything, what you want for what you want for each officer, or what you want for each colleague, assignments, key performance indicators. It gives you opportunities to really check what is this doing and what is the other person doing, who is doing well, who is not doing well, how can I assist, how can I come in to assist you, what are the challenges that are limiting you from meeting up your key performance indicators. And I think with that, everyone will do well. And then I also think, from what Ebun said, taking ownership as a leader, you take ownership. You don't come to the workplace, or you don't come to the table and then you just give authorities around, you just give instructions around. You must take ownership. A leader is meant to impact, a leader is meant to inspire, a leader is also meant to motivate people around you for a set goal, for a common goal. So when your subordinates or people around you find out that you as a leader, you take ownership of everything, your meeting target, responsibility of the workforce, if they find out you do that, they would have no other option than to follow suit. So I think ownership and open communication channel is very vital. It could be formal, it could be informal. So it depends on what works for you. I use an informal communications channel to mediate between myself and my team, and it worked very well. Nobody could break into the team. Even when you find out people try to break into the team, we were so knitted, so close together, because we had an open communication channel working for us. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Violet. Very interesting reflection. And yes, I think most organizations suffer with this problem of lack of clarity and accountability. We have a couple of questions coming through here this morning. The one is, how do you gain clarity when you have an extremely big team? How do you get that communication flowing? That it brings clarity. And that would be for you, Ebunoluwa.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, and it's a good one, by the way. So you have a big team. And that's why there is what we call the organizational organogram, basically. There are different people at different levels. You have managers, you have directors. So when you communicate at the top level, you communicate to the next level because people understand things differently. We are not even on the same level in terms of experience and all of that. So communication must be cascaded down to other managers who are able to manage their smaller teams, because communication is even very broad. We just said communication now. There are times you as a manager, you can understand what is going on with your team members better because you're closer to them. So if somebody is having challenges at home, for instance, I don't expect a director to know that information, but you will be able to manage that within your own team. So to answer your question is that we communicate by the various cadres or within the various cadres in the organization. It's easier that way. Executive level can come down to the last person, but the manager who is in charge of those people can easily have that communication with them. I hope that clarifies and answers that question. Thanks.
I'm sure it does. A question from Ijeoma. How do we handle the situation where a leader does not always give clarity on what he or she wants, but keeps punishing the group for shortfalls?
Okay, so that's what we were talking about earlier. What you find sometimes that even leaders, and there are various levels of leadership within the organization, as we all know, even some leaders don't understand they don't have clarity, let me put it that way. And for various reasons, either for political reasons, they've seen this person is not really adding value, you've been pushed to one side, so to speak, or even you are not even honing your skills and you're not really bringing value to the table. So you're no longer invited to meetings. So you don't even know what to do yourself. And that's the truth. And like I said, nobody wants to be seen as ineffective. So the next thing is to transfer aggression. I'm upset about something, but I need to show that I'm still the boss. So I'm going to shout on you, hey, you didn't come in today. Why are you late? Why are you not on your seat? Why are you under the table? Why are you in the bathroom? Or is that the real issue? I don't need to follow you around. If all I'm waiting for is at the appropriate time, you need to give your update on your own bit of the goal. So when that happens, unfortunately, we find that in so many organizations where leaders don't even know what to do themselves, and again, some people know what to do, but they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to communicate. But the thing is, as a leader, you may not have it all. Although I'll say as a leader, communication is very key. Is the needed skill for you as a leader. But even if you've seen that you're not so great at communicating, there's nothing wrong in you identifying a team member who communicates better and working through them. After all, it's teamwork. You've identified your weakness and a strength in somebody else. That's why a leader must be vulnerable enough to let people know, oh, this person. And at times, we can understand where the leaders are coming from too, because when a subordinate sees your weakness, they may now see it as, oh, he doesn't even know anything. After all, I'm the one doing all of this. But the thing is, when you're confident in yourself, you understand your abilities, you keep honing your skills, because as a leader, hey, you must keep leading, and not by position alone, but in terms of even your knowledge, your exposure. That way, people will still respect you. And like Violet said earlier, when you built that team so well, there are other ways you make up for your weaknesses that people know that, hey, this person is still a leader, with or without this particular strength or weakness, as the case may be. So yes, I think I've spoken to you, maybe not answered your question, because yes, that's the solution. I mean, I can't give a solution to that. The problem is the problem. I can't come into the organization to resolve it, but those are ways we can help. If you've seen, hey, you have the strength, your leader doesn't have it. And that's what this book, 360-degree Leader, talks about. You can actually be a leader without the position, and that's where you're adding value. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Bumagoa says, even with over-communication and accountability meetings, we're still having comprehension gap issues that tamper with the clarity. How do we overcome this?
Okay, even with communication, sorry, I didn't get that clearly.
Yeah, even with over-communication and accountability meetings, we still have comprehension gap issues that tamper with clarity. How do we overcome this?
Okay, so you've over-communicated and you feel understood. So maybe another thing I didn't touch on earlier is that we all know the communication, how communication works. There's feedback, there is the medium and all of that. So feedback is another way also to ensure that everybody is actually on the same page. Because sometimes you say something and you feel everybody has heard you, but somebody in the room didn't hear you. Okay, so maybe getting feedback also from the team may be a way to ensure that we are all on the same page. How do you get feedback? Oh, I've said this. Can you send me a note? Because sometimes I do this. I speak in meetings with my team, and then I say, can you send me an email as to what your own understanding of what we just said is? And then you see different communication, almost similar to what we had in that picture. And then it's my role to provide clarity where I've seen the gap to say, hey, that's not what I mean. This is what I mean. And that can happen one-on-one, that's one way. And sometimes also you may have some people who deliberately don't want to hear. So that's another issue entirely. And, something you also now need to address. What exactly it is, I've communicated this, I've provided clarity, you've given me your feedback, and you're still doing the wrong thing. So where does the problem lie here? We then need to get to the root of that. So that's my response to that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think understanding your boss too plays a very big role in that. We have people that are leaders, we have people that are bosses. So if you understand that you have I don't want to use the word irate, or a very unreasonable boss, you need to find the mood, you need to fine tune. I didn't have it all rosy in my banking career at my early stage. I had a boss that everything I do was wrong towards her. You understand? Everything, including even my performance was sat on. But I understood, I just followed suit with whatever she was doing. Even if she was not a leader, I'll just follow her. But at the right time, my advice is just do what you have to do. Don't get irritated. Don't get what they call the confrontational. Just do what you have to do at the right time. Someday, sometime, your shine will just come out. Someone else that is more senior to that boss, that is not, even with all the communications you've done, the person is not listening to you. Somehow, somewhere, your qualities will come out and a higher authority would notice you. I'm talking from experience. A higher authority will notice you, which will bring you to the limelight. But never you be confrontational. Never you try to make excuses. Never you try to rub shoulders with your boss. Follow suit. Do whatever he or she wants. Do your job. Ensure that you are meeting up your assigned goals, assigned targets, and all that, so that even if anything happens, nothing will be held against you. You will have a clean slate. And then it's your boss or leader that would have the problem. Do I make myself clear there?
Yes, thanks, Violet. Then we have Bruno is asking, what is your viewpoint on proper best procedure for achieving clarity? Iterative feedback looks like micromanaging. What is your viewpoint on that?
Sorry, we didn't get the question right.
Okay. What is your viewpoint on the proper best procedure for achieving that clarity? Iterative feedback looks like micromanaging. Do you have a viewpoint on that?
I think Bruno means if you want to show that people need to give more clarity, it doesn't help if you constantly give them the same feedback, because then you look like a control freak, like someone who's micromanaging. So how do you do that? How do you address people to say, I want you to give more clarity?
Okay, I think the question is clearer now. So you don't want to appear like you're micromanaging. However,
Correct.
You still want to give clarity on what it is you expect. Okay, so I think also understanding, just like Violet said, understanding your boss, you also need to understand your team members. People have different personalities. So understanding the best way to get messages across to people sometimes is key. However, I would also say this, because it's an organization, you're also mindful of your time. You don't want to spend all your time, following after one person or the other. So there must be a general way, first and foremost, to communicate with people, whatever works in the organization, because I'm always mindful of, you don't just tailor, you need to tailor to suit your environment. So take, for instance, if it is email, send an email to everybody. I mean, it's also even important for everybody to, first of all, get the information the same way. However, when you've seen that somebody is out of line, you then need to maybe call one-on-one meeting or even just discussion, right? To provide more clarity. And if it's happening all the time, you want to see if maybe this is a skill issue, or you never can tell, maybe it's even a medical issue. You want to narrow it down to what it is. This person is not hearing properly, or they don't comprehend on time. Of course, we all learn in different ways as well. Some people learn better when listening, some people learn reading, so that's where understanding people comes in. And when you've been able to narrow down what exactly it is, then it becomes easier for you to know the best way to communicate with people. But like I said earlier, have a formal way first. Let everybody be on the same page. Let there always be that openness. Everybody sees this is what I've said. And they can even check with other people too. And if you're still seeing gaps, you can come in as a leader, or their own peers can bring in more clarity as required. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for that. Violet, you mentioned a channel when you were reflecting back on Ebunoluwa. Hans is asking, what is your definition of a channel? Violet, are you with us? I think she might have frozen a little bit. So we can go to the next question and we'll come back to that one, Hans. Kim is asking, how frequent can a communication be made that would not be perceived as a form of nagging or pressure button, rather than receiving it as material growth? So what would the frequency be of that, Ebunoluwa?
Okay, like I mentioned when I was talking about creating a system of accountability, right? It's about creating a rhythm, a business rhythm. So maybe you also look at the environment, what works. If it is a very busy environment, maybe a weekly meeting may not be feasible. So maybe it's bi-weekly or monthly, whatever works for you. And even when you're determining the frequency, you also need to see the maturity of the people. Because if it is held too far apart, you may not even be able to achieve the result at the end of the day. Okay, so if you start with weekly, if weekly is not possible, I would say bi-weekly. But if you extend to monthly, even as individuals, we all can tell that, when something is left for so long on our table, it takes longer to get to it, rather than something you need to get to every 2 weeks. So yes, your environment, you need to what works, and let it now be what everybody knows. It becomes a business rhythm. So we know every 2 weeks we have this meeting. It's not that you just call for meetings every now and then and everybody's wondering what the meeting is for this time around.
Okay, thank you. Then we have Humphrey, who says he comes from Curacao, but is now living in the Netherlands. He would like to know, is it possible to agree that clarity has to be part of motivation? He says, if you look at the integrative motivation model, do you agree with that?
Okay, clarity being part of motivation.
Part of motivation.
Okay, I agree with you. And let me just also say this, that just 2 pillars were picked. 2 pillars of driving performance. Excuse me. There are other pillars, definitely. Okay, but clarity in motivation. Yes, that motivation is important. Definitely. We can't just keep driving people, expect them to deliver on this and that. Yes, we must be able to weave in motivation while providing clarity. And I think it's also maybe tied more to accountability, and this is what I mean by that. So every meeting doesn't have to be so serious. Oh, we are doing this. Some may be to motivate people. These are people that have done so well. Want to recognize them. Okay, so that's an avenue to motivate people while still, creating some sense of accountability for others to say, oh, I also want to be celebrated this way the next time. So yes.
Thank you so much. That's all we have time for today, I'm afraid. There are a couple of questions that were still open. Unfortunately, Hans, we couldn't get an answer on your question on the channel because we lost Violet. We can get that answer for you and then we can send it along to you. Thank you very much, Ebunoluwa, for a very interesting presentation. It gives us some food for thought again. I think things in our daily life is just far too busy. So we tend to forget these things. We need to go back and look at them again. So thank you very much for your presentation, and thanks very much to Violet for an insightful reflection. And thank you very much to everybody that attended this morning that asked all these questions to get us deeper thinking. Next week, Good Morning BSN57 is Change Leadership, Overcoming Resistance to Change. Our presenter is Edith Meyer, strategy consultant from the Dutch government, and reflection is Chris Meyer, who leads a team which hires new talents at the Dutch tax authorities. So thank you everybody for attending this morning. I wish you a very good day. And we will see you next week, Tuesday. Thanks so much.